Welcome back, we are on a roll with looking at the developer, Sucker Punch Studios, and today we're looking at their launch title for the PlayStation 4. I never played the originals on PS3, but let's see if I'll be suggesting Infamous Second Son. Infamous Second Son is an open-world, story-based adventure which will have you traversing the city of Seattle with superhero-like powers. Anything from flying to firing smoke from your fingertips and diving into the ground with cataclysmic effect. Does this Ps4 launch title made by Sucker Punch, the creators of Sly Cooper, hold up now that we're approaching the end of the PS4 generation? Let's find out. I'm going to go right to the bat and just warn you that I won't be hiding what powers are available to you. Main reason being is the variety that really makes this game. Each power really changes how you approach each fight, but let's start off with the smoke one. This power I found on sticking to my good guy theme is really easy to use, and by what I mean is they make it very easy to subdue rather than kill the enemy, which gives you a plus to your good karma, and my favourite move was the headshot that immediately subdued the grunts. A little bit overpowered, but you can also disrupt groups by throwing smoke clouds and capture multiple enemies, but when you wanted to do damage, you could, and that was with your bombs, which really came in handy with destroying their vehicles or tanky soldiers. Being able to heal from either subduing or consuming smoke from vents really helped. And the dodge mechanic, which makes you invulnerable, is key to survival because sometimes there are simply two enemies to take down and a way out is needed. There are also evil karma abilities. This isn't one of those games where you get both good and bad, so pick a side and stick with it, because staying in the middle gets you nowhere. Being evil will make you kill everyone, while subdue where you can turn them to ash and obliterate them from the inside out with your powers. The final smoke move I haven't touched on is the diving Comet. You subdue or execute several enemies depending on your karma, and you'll fly up, smashing into the ground in an awe-inspiring amount of fury, speed, destruction. It's fun and really clears the deck. Trust me when I say this, keep one of these in the banks between clearing areas because it's crazy useful. Neon is one of the cooler looking powers. This works differently for not only how you traverse, but the most basic of moves. For example, if you shoot their head, it will execute, but if you shoot their feet, it will subdue. And it will highlight this with the subsequent blue and red zones. It has a badass move, so instead of diving into the ground, enemies in the area get floated up in plasma, and then you lay down a barrage of fire, killing all in your way. However, what stands out the most with this power is the ability for you to pick whether you're evil or good. While smoke helps, Neon removes the extra press to either subdue or execute, and you can just straight up shoot the head for the kill or leg to immediately subdue. Video for me was a good power when it came to two things. Traversing was one of them because you could very quickly cover lots of ground when you're either attacking or retreating, making it much easier to commit to a fight knowing you have an escape route secured. The next standout for me is how quickly it deals with vehicles like helicopters, and the fact it's fully automatic makes it way more lenient with its shots. When you can't fire as much as you like, it often makes missing detrimental, but in this case it would take a serious choking of your shots to be affected. But overall, I wasn't really a fan of using this power because while it looked awesome, flying with powers were much less accessible than the smoke and neon, which had an almost infinite amount of reloads in comparison. There is one more power. It's a mini spoiler, but if you don't mind, listen on. Concrete is useless, and why do I say that? Get it for the final boss fight, and don't get me wrong, you have it post-game too, but because there was no slow progression of abilities and me experimenting with it, it all came to me as I was ready to put the game down. And before I mention all the negatives, what does it do? Some serious damage, the ability for a Goron-like roll ability, and it's cool, but I think my problem here is that I just wasn't attached to this ability, besides for story reasons. But hey, if I went for that 100%, maybe I'd have thought differently. There are a few types of enemies you will encounter, from grunts, slightly more armored grunts, officers, heavies, tanks, and helicopters. These all slightly vary in your approach, and others have a better way to take down. Such as the tanks. I would use them as a launch pad and smash back down, blowing myself up in the process, but hey, they give me smoke, so free heals. The rest are either subdued or hit them enough times to make them give up. Enough variety to keep it mixed up without overwhelming you, which is good considering you can't actively change your powers to adjust, and you have to actually go and find a resource to tap. Moving around feels great in this world, and I often found myself comboing, gliding with the unique powers abilities to get the first spot touching the ground, because as far as I was concerned, the floor is lava. Smoke allows you to go through vents and out of chimneys, It's an instant way to go on the rooftops, which by the way, there'll be plenty of. Smoke also lets you go through some objects, so if you think the way is blocked, it might not be. Neon is the sonic power. You can run fast, jump far, and even go up walls while leaving a cool trail in the process. It's an awesome way to get around the map because it's the complete opposite way to traversing with smoke power, which besides the use of vents, it's so slow. Suddenly you can cover serious ground, and it's worth noting I never felt the need to fast travel because of how convenient this all is. There was the odd occasion where you could get stuck on places, but not often enough to get on my nerves, and one thing that is key is that I think works in this game's favour is that your traversing abilities are not dependent on how much ammo you have. And honestly, if this wasn't the case, I'd be giving a very different opinion. Video ramps the game up with almost the same loop that Smoke had to Neon. You can now fly, and with how hard it can be to find ammo, it's mainly only good for traversing the various heights. One problem I did have, however, was when I was going up the building with wings, it would stop after a certain height, so you'd have to press it again. It worked all the same, but it takes you out of it a little bit. And as I said earlier, it's perfect for getting out of combat, but honestly, if I was you, I'd immediately switch to another power when you enter a fight. When you're exploring, there's plenty to do. My favourite were the art pieces because it was cool to see the Banksy-like messages you would leave, which is affected by whether you choose the good or evil option, and it makes you hold the control like a spray can, which is a nice little touch. You'll also be tasked with finding drones to get shards for upgrading your abilities, finding undercover agents, tracking down secret audio files with some extra lore, spotting hidden cameras as well as normal CCTV, clearing Nero bases which will lead to a showdown, and if you win you get a fast travel point, but honestly they aren't needed unless you're going to the opposite end of the map. One thing that was different here though was as much as I liked the game, I didn't get that same drive to complete the map like I did with games such as Breath of the Wild and Ghost of Tsushima. It was fun, but I never had that I must liberate and do everything vibe. But now I think it's time we cover the story. It starts with Delsin tagging a billboard, and when he's sneaking around he is caught by the head of his tribe, and she was called Betty, and it seems like this is a frequent thing. But she agrees to cover for him one last time from the cops, so it seems that he's a constant pain in the ass. You get a taste of the movement when the cops catch up to you. Turns out it's your brother. And yeah, that's his face he was tagging on the billboard. But as having a brotherly reunion of being told off, you see a prison van crash and people escaping. Delsin helps the prisoner up, but when he sees his brother who's a cop, he grabs Delsin and starts absorbing the smoke. And then he fires near his brother Reggie, so he grabs his arm and it's thrown into a cutscene. Great art style, but just seeing what happened to him, his motivations, and who to be afraid of. And he wakes up to everything on fire, and it turns out he is a conduit capable of smoke power, and it's out of control, and both of them aren't happy about it. However, the building he was just in with Betty is on fire, and she can't be left in there, so you go through saving her, and then chasing him down. When you eventually get out, the villain appears, and you see her power, and the concrete is nasty, not only dispatching the conduit Hank, but sending it through you and mobilizing you in the process. And it's here we are shown the choice system. Good, sacrifice yourself. Evil, sacrifice the tribe. And this system will not only shape the abilities you have, but the ending and how people perceive you. And as you guys can guess, I took the good guy response, but let me know in the comments how you would take this on. Good or evil? Augustine doesn't believe the truth, and when he wakes up, she went through most of the tribe putting concrete into them to interrogate them. Delsin recovered, but that's what conduits do. However, everyone else is terminal, which is what drives him to head to Seattle with Reggie in the hopes of he can catch Augustine and learn her powers, thus removing the concrete from the tribe. Now that you're in Seattle, you get to explore and do damage to the DUP, but while this is happening, it's time to track down all the conduits that escaped and are going around the city. Fetch is the first one you encounter. She has the neon power. I love this one, and the character, I hated her boss scene though, very tedious, but hey, it's worth it. You get the choice whether to redeem or corrupt them, and obviously I picked the former. Eugene was another weird one. The power is cool, but the boss fight fell a little short. It felt like it was 5 minutes too long, because once you learn what you need to do, it's rinse and repeat until you win, which made it feel like it dragged on as a result. He's a shy character, but seeing his alter ego that he hides behind is funny because it's literally the polar opposite, so it was always great when that came out to play. Their quests are quite fun, you see their motivations, weaknesses, and now their strengths. Fetch, you learn about how she lost a loved one due to drugs and a lack of control of her abilities, which eats her up inside. But now we teach her how to take drug dealers to justice. Eugene was bullied horribly, so now he uses the virtual world to help conduits in need. Seeing him, his Valkyries, and the damage they ensue is awesome. Now that Delsin has the 3 powers, you have a dealing with Hank, who is alive. Looked like he was dead for sure, but hey, he gives you information that both Fetch and Eugene have been captured and are on Concrete Island. You make your way through, start to free them both, but it was a trap. Reggie rescues Delsin with a rocket launcher. Great to see him level the playing field, but she smashes the platform you're on, and you're trying to get Reggie back up, but Eugene encases him in concrete, weighing him down so much he realizes that he can't be saved and will only drag him down with him. He tells Delsin he's proud of him and lets go. It's very sad, and to be honest, very little time to process this, because now we need revenge. The boss fight is fun. Some soldiers are thrown in to keep the fighting varied, but simply boiled down, it is remove the shield, knock her down, kick her, repeat till you do the big old badass dive at the end, but despite your best rage-filled efforts, she gets away as you destroy Concrete Island. Here was the only time I really questioned my good guy stance. You track down Hank because he sold us out, which ultimately led to Reggie's death. When you catch up to him, you hear he's just back on a boat to escape, and his daughter's on there. Delsin grabs a chain, wraps it around his neck, and you get an option, kill or spare. And honestly, if it wasn't for his daughter, I'd have killed his ass and pushed him in the river, but I let him live. Just. Now the final fight is upon you. You make your way up the villain tower. Augustine is absolutely desperate to stay relevant, but everything you're doing, she's on the back foot. With the help of Fetch and Eugene, you get to the top and fight. Delsin gets the concrete power and learn her rationale behind it all, which is to keep every conduit alive. She finds them, captures them, and locks them away in a secure facility, safe from others who sees them as freaks. And it's funny to see her brag, like, hey, I've had years to hone this, even with my power, you're no match. So how do we level the playing field? Eugene will throw you transformers to get upgraded, and this, like the other fights, is a slow whittle down the health until you win. It's good to see they changed the shield to a concrete beast, but after a long fight, she is defeated, and I opted to humiliate her, exposing her for what she has done, but ultimately being the good guy. I was able to free all the conduits, and with the public support, you'd also notice the nice little touches like them cheering you on in fights. It's a really nice side note. Delsin heads back to his tribe, removes all the concrete. They have a sad moment about Reggie, but it ends with a wonderful mural of him, which is literally the opposite of the start when we were tagging his face. Infamous Second Son is a fun, light experience that isn't a huge commitment like new titles. I enjoyed the world and the characters, and considering it's a superhero-like journey, that's pretty good. Don't expect a long time playing this one. It's anything from 9 to 20 hours depending on what you're going for, and it's very affordable nowadays with DLC if you're looking to add to that journey. So yeah, I'm suggesting Infamous Second Son.